Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you today to address an issue that often weighs heavily on the hearts and minds of many individuals. It is a concept that, when misunderstood, can lead to unnecessary hurt and frustration. That issue is the paradox of kindness and respect. How is it that the more we show kindness to others, the more we often find ourselves treated with disrespect? It's a question that might confuse many, yet it is one that has been observed repeatedly in our relationships, workplaces, and communities. Today, we will explore why your kindness may be making people disrespect you. We live in a world that is quick to judge, to exploit, and to take advantage. There is a misconception that kindness is weakness. And when kindness is misinterpreted, it becomes the very tool that others use to take advantage of you. But it doesn't have to be that way. The challenge lies not in being kind, but in knowing how to maintain your integrity and self-respect while extending that kindness to others. We will explore this dynamic, examine the root causes of disrespect, and empower you with knowledge on how to navigate the delicate balance between kindness and self-respect. Kindness is often mistaken for weakness. In a society where power and authority are often equated with respect, kindness is sometimes viewed as a vulnerability. The act of being kind to others can unintentionally send the message that you lack the ability to stand firm or enforce boundaries. People who are used to seeing others assert their power through aggression or dominance might misinterpret your kindness as a sign of inferiority or passivity. When you approach others with a genuine spirit of kindness, you may find that those who are insecure or driven by selfish desires seek to exploit that kindness for their own gain. They see your willingness to accommodate them, your desire to help, as an opportunity to advance their own agenda, often disregarding your needs or feelings in the process. These individuals do not recognize that true strength lies in the ability to give without expecting anything in return, but rather in the ability to stand firm when it is necessary to protect your interests. Kindness does not mean allowing others to take advantage of you or overstep your boundaries. It does not require you to tolerate disrespect or mistreatment in any form. Unfortunately, many people misunderstand the essence of kindness, seeing it as a free pass to exploit someone's generosity. This is why at times you may find that the more kind you are, the more people disrespect you or assume that you will always give in to their demands. This misperception can cause immense frustration, especially when you feel like you are being taken for granted. It's important to understand that kindness does not equate to surrendering your rights or dignity. When you give with a genuine heart, you must also set boundaries that preserve your sense of self-respect. By doing so, you teach others how to treat you with the same level of respect that you give. Moreover, it's crucial to remember that some people are simply not equipped to appreciate or reciprocate kindness. They have become conditioned by a world where transactional relationships dominate, and they see every act of kindness as a potential weakness. They may even feel threatened by it, believing that such behavior undermines their own position of control. When kindness is met with disrespect, it is not a reflection of your character, but rather of the limited capacity of others to understand it. In these moments, it is important to ask yourself, am I extending kindness in the right way? Am I allowing my generosity to be misinterpreted? And if so, what can I do to adjust my approach? Kindness should never compromise your dignity. And it is only through careful discernment and the establishment of healthy boundaries that you can avoid being disrespected by others who fail to appreciate your true intentions. Overgiving leads to exploitation. There is a fine line between being generous and overgiving. When you continuously give without considering your own needs or limits, you may unknowingly invite exploitation. People who are driven by selfish motives will take advantage of your giving nature, expecting you to fulfill their desires without considering the cost to you. This is a dangerous cycle that often results in you being drained physically, emotionally, and mentally, while those around you take what you offer without gratitude or reciprocity. Overgiving often stems from a genuine desire to help, to make others happy, and to ensure that no one feels left behind. However, when kindness becomes an endless supply without a sense of balance, it creates an imbalance in the relationship. People begin to expect your generosity as a given without ever offering anything in return. Over time, they may begin to take your kindness for granted, viewing it as something that will always be available to them. The exploitation that arises from overgiving can be subtle at first, but it becomes increasingly apparent as the demands on your time and resources grow. At first, it may seem harmless. Perhaps you give a little more of your time, energy, or money to help someone. But as they realize that you will always come through, they begin to take advantage of the situation without acknowledging your sacrifices or appreciating your contributions. This cycle of overgiving and exploitation can lead to feelings of frustration, resentment, and disillusionment. You may begin to feel as though your kindness is being used against you, and that the more you give, the less you receive in return. It is essential to recognize that giving without boundaries ultimately erodes the quality of your relationships. True kindness is not about overextending yourself to meet the demands of others, but about offering help in a way that preserves your well-being and fosters mutual respect. To avoid falling into this trap, you must learn to say no when necessary. Setting boundaries is an integral part of maintaining healthy relationships. While kindness is about giving freely, it is also about knowing when to stop and preserve your energy for those who genuinely appreciate it. By doing so, you will encourage others to value your generosity rather than taking it for granted. In the end, it is important to remember that kindness is not a currency to be exchanged. It is an act of love and compassion that should be given freely, but with discernment. By learning to balance giving with self-care and establishing healthy limits, you can ensure that your kindness is not exploited, but rather respected. Lack of boundaries leads to disrespect. One of the greatest mistakes that people make when being kind is failing to establish clear boundaries. When you lack boundaries, you are more likely to be disrespected because people will push limits and take advantage of your generosity. Boundaries are not walls that separate you from others. Rather, they are guidelines that protect your well-being and ensure that your kindness is not exploited. Without boundaries, kindness becomes an invitation for others to take advantage of you. People may expect you to always be available, to always help, and to always put their needs before your own. Over time, this erodes your sense of self-respect because you begin to feel like a doormat, constantly accommodating others while neglecting your own needs. Boundaries are essential for maintaining healthy relationships. They teach others how to treat you and ensure that you are not being taken for granted. Without boundaries, your kindness becomes a free-for-all, where people push and pull at your time, energy, and resources without any regard for your limits. This lack of respect for your personal space and needs can lead to feelings of resentment and exhaustion, which only deepen the cycle of disrespect. Establishing boundaries requires courage, especially when you have been conditioned to please others. It requires a shift in mindset from being a people pleaser to becoming a person who values and respects themselves. Setting boundaries is not about rejecting others, but about creating space for your own well-being. By doing so, you teach others that your kindness is a gift, not an obligation. In relationships where kindness is given freely without boundaries, the risk of burnout and resentment increases. You may find yourself overwhelmed and emotionally drained, with little left to give to those who truly value you. Boundaries are necessary for self-preservation, and they are an essential part of preserving your dignity in any relationship. By learning to assert your boundaries, you ensure that your kindness remains a source of strength rather than a vulnerability. Boundaries are not barriers, but protections that allow your kindness to flourish in a healthy, respectful environment. They help you maintain balance in your relationships and prevent others from taking advantage of your goodwill. People take advantage of consistent availability. Kindness often involves being available to help others, but when you are consistently available, without taking time for yourself, you invite disrespect. People will begin to take your availability for granted, assuming that you will always be there when they need something, regardless of your own needs or desires. This consistent availability without clear limits can lead to a lack of appreciation for your time and effort. When you make yourself constantly available to others, you inadvertently send the message that your time is not valuable. People who are used to your generosity may stop considering your needs, focusing only on their own desires and demands. This can lead to a pattern of one-sided relationships where you give, and others take without offering anything in return. The more available you make yourself to others, the more they will come to expect that availability. They begin to rely on your generosity without recognizing that you too have your own responsibilities, obligations, and needs. The lack of appreciation for your time and energy becomes disrespectful, and you may begin to feel unappreciated and used. While it is important to be available and willing to help others, it is equally important to prioritize your own well-being. You cannot pour from an empty cup. When you make yourself available without considering your own needs, you risk depleting yourself and losing the ability to be truly kind. It's essential to recognize that kindness does not mean sacrificing yourself for the sake of others. By setting clear boundaries on your availability, you not only preserve your energy and well-being, but also teach others to respect your time. People will learn that your kindness is not an endless resource, and they will begin to value the time and effort you offer. This respect is essential for healthy, balanced relationships. Being unavailable at times does not make you a bad person. It makes you a person who values themselves and their time. It is through this self-respect that others will learn to treat you with the same consideration, ensuring that your kindness is met with the respect it deserves. Expectations of reciprocity are often unmet. One of the greatest disappointments of kindness is the expectation of reciprocity. We often give freely to others, hoping that they will return the favor when the time comes. However, the reality is that not everyone shares the same values or appreciation for the kindness you offer. The lack of reciprocity can lead to feelings of frustration and resentment, especially when you have extended yourself in ways that others have not reciprocated. Kindness, when given with the expectation of receiving something in return, becomes a transactional relationship. The beauty of kindness is that it should be given without strings attached. When we give with the hope of receiving something in return, we are setting ourselves up for disappointment. It is important to understand that the people you help may not always be in a position to repay you, and that's okay. The failure of others to reciprocate does not diminish the value of your kindness, nor does it justify disrespect. However, it is essential to recognize that true kindness comes without expectations. If you give only because you expect something in return, your kindness becomes a form of manipulation, and this can lead to disrespect when your expectations are not met. When you give freely, you release yourself from the burden of expectation. You offer kindness not for the sake of receiving something back, but because it aligns with your values and principles. This pure form of kindness fosters deeper, more genuine relationships, where respect is earned through actions rather than obligation. However, when you are consistently giving without receiving, it can be disheartening. In these situations, it's essential to evaluate your relationships and ensure that you are not being taken advantage of. While you should give freely, it's important to ensure that the people around you are contributing to the relationship in meaningful ways, whether emotionally, physically, or otherwise. The key is to maintain a balance between giving and receiving. If you find yourself in a situation where your kindness is consistently unreciprocated, it may be time to reassess the nature of your relationship with those individuals and set boundaries that preserve your self-respect. People may mistake your kindness for a lack of standards. Kindness, when misunderstood, can sometimes be seen as a lack of standards or principles. When you are always kind, always accommodating, and always generous, people may begin to think that you have no personal standards and that you will tolerate anything, including disrespect. They might believe that your kindness is a sign of weakness or complacency. Having high standards for how you are treated is not incompatible with being kind. In fact, kindness can be a strength when it is paired with the firm understanding of your value and the respect you deserve. People who fail to recognize your boundaries or standards may test them, taking advantage of your kindness in ways that they would not with others who have established clear limits. When you allow others to treat you poorly because you are always kind and accommodating, you send the message that their disrespect is acceptable. It is essential to assert your standards in relationships, ensuring that your kindness does not become an excuse for mistreatment. By upholding your standards, you demonstrate to others that kindness is not a free pass to disrespect you. You have the right to demand respect while still being kind. Kindness does not mean sacrificing your principles or lowering your expectations. On the contrary, it means being strong enough to assert those principles even in the face of adversity. By holding others accountable for their actions, you ensure that your kindness is not misconstrued as a lack of self-respect. People will only treat you as you allow them to treat you. When you establish and communicate your standards, you help others understand the boundaries within which your kindness operates. This balance is essential for maintaining healthy, respectful relationships. In relationships where kindness is misunderstood as a lack of standards, it is important to reaffirm your expectations and values. You must never compromise your dignity in the name of kindness. By maintaining high standards and asserting them with love and respect, you will cultivate relationships where your kindness is not only appreciated but reciprocated with the same level of respect. As we have explored today, kindness is a powerful force that can build bridges, foster understanding, and create lasting relationships. However, when kindness is misunderstood, overextended, or given without boundaries, it can lead to disrespect. The key to maintaining your dignity while being kind is to recognize the value of your time, energy, and emotional resources. You must set boundaries, prioritize self-respect, and never allow kindness to become a tool for exploitation. By doing so, you will ensure that your kindness is met with the respect and appreciation that it deserves, creating relationships that are built on mutual understanding and honor.